Do you struggle getting your hands ahead at impact, or do you break down that left wrist too early, coming through your pitch shots and full swing shots? Well, this rib breaker, that's right, it's called the rib breaker, comes through big time for you to get a sensation of what it's like to have your hands in front of the ball at impact, but also how you can get a great de-lofting of the golf club in your shot. So let's get into it. The rib breaker is something I got bored of one time on an internship, and the assistant pro and I came up with it. We took a alignment stick and rammed it underneath the grip, but I just took a bigger, badder version of it, put an old shaft in the back of a wedge. If you've got some old sticks lying around, have at it. Now, you're going to grip it on the bottom grip and let it go underneath your left armpit if you're right-handed. And what it's going to allow you to do is if your hand breaks down too soon, you'll be slapping your ribs all day in the downswing. Now, to be fair, a lot of what I have with these is they give you great feedback, but a lot of times people become very dependent upon it. And that's the issue with something like this, is that you can't live and breathe by the rib breaker. You have to use it to learn what it's like and then create that sensation, that feel, and be able to do it on your own. This obviously gives you the feedback from when you screw it up, but not something that you can live and die by. Now, if you can manipulate the golf club in such a way that you imagine this sticking out of the back of your wedge while you're doing this, you probably are going to start creating some great feels through the shot. And the reason why this is important is because best ball strikers have a little bit of flexion in their left hand, lead hand, at impact, but it's not staying and going into flexion at that point. It's actually going away from flexion, but they have some at impact. And when they have that, how do they get through the shot? So a lot of times when I see golfers take my rib breaker up for the first time, they're so scared of the first hit, and they'll do this. And they kind of push the club away from their body. It's not how a real hit happens. So what we do and what we want to feel is we want to feel the butt of the club going around my body. So what I mean by that is if this thing's tied to my left hip, my left rib cage, it kind of stays there while I rotate. And it might come off a little bit, but we don't want it to obviously slap us. We don't obviously want to slide our arms away from our body, so it comes back to rotation. And so this is where, again, I wouldn't do anything bigger than a pitch shot swing here, just for the sake of your lower two ribs. You get set up, back, through, and that thing doesn't touch you in the rib cage, you're doing pretty good. And so you can get to a pretty decent sized follow through on these pitch shots without touching your rib cage. You can learn to create a little bit of zip on the golf ball as well. But you're also starting to create the feel of what it's like to get your hands in front of the ball at impact, which might be a foreign feeling. So then the question becomes, when you take that and go to a full swing shot, can you replicate that sensation? Now, usually there's diminishing returns. A lot of times I'll have golfers come in, they'll hit that first shot with the rib breaker, first 10 swings with that rib breaker, they'll come back to their first wedge and be like, look how good I am, coach. I kept my lead hand in flexion, I did it perfect. By the third rep, they're back to this guy. And they're back into their scooping it again. So when we practice these devices, we have to be very careful about how much we rely upon it versus how much it's helping us. And so what I would tell a lot of golfers is do the rib breaker a few times to get the feel. So you get 2, 3, 4, 5 reps, whatever it takes. Get a sensation, hit a couple good shots with it. Drop it. Take as many shots as you need until you start to go back to your old technique and you start to have your old miss again with the other one. So that might be 2 or 3 shots, and then you're back to flipping it again. So then grab the rib breaker another time. You come back to the old rib breaker here. You get set up. Give another practice swing. Ooh, yep, there it is. It clipped me. We don't want to get clipped. There's the bad habit. Okay, I got my feedback. Let's go again. Let's not get hit. Oh, okay. That's what it feels like to not get hit in the ribs. Go back to your other golf club and try and replicate that same feeling. And if you can replicate it, keep going. If you fail, like I did there, you come back to the rib breaker and reset. So this gets a lot into practice. And what I would recommend, if you do something with a rib breaker, you build your own, have a little fun with it, what I would recommend you do is you would start with like an equation of like 5 rib breakers, 1 pit shot with your wedge. 4 rib breakers, 2 pit shots with your wedge, and then 3 and 3, and then 2 rib breakers to 4 pit shots, 1 rib breaker to 5 pit shots, and kind of juggle that equation of how much should you be using that device to make you do it the right way versus doing it the right way on your own. That should only be used to give you the feel, not a crutch to make you do it. So when you're swinging that stick and you're swinging old rib breaker here, what am I having to do to keep that hand from breaking down and slapping me in the rib cage? That's what you should be feeling. And that's what you should be trying to get the sensation of, is how am I making this motion so that this doesn't hit me? And how, if this didn't exist, how can I repeat that when I grab my other wedge? And that's what we want to start thinking about. And then we start to get really good at it. Then maybe we start working some full swings and go, okay, so when I get back here, it should feel like this on the follow through. And then you start kind of working through that process of what happens when I go to a full swing. Where does that club have to be through the impact area to produce good ball flight? And that is how you start to change the flip at the bottom or the poor quality of contact in your pitch shots and full swings. So again, that rib breaker is really simple. You get a wedge, stick an alignment stick in the back of it, or take an old wedge and then cut the head off of another one, ram the shaft down the back of that. You have a nice little device that'll allow you to get that feeling of hands in front at impact. So if you like that comment or like that video, please comment below. Let me know what you think. And I would love to hear what you guys want to hear from me as I make more content for you guys.